The Final Four matchup is set. Well, the Final Four is over. The national championship game is set. Florida beats Auburn 79-73, and Houston shocks the world, coming back huge from down 14 to beat Duke. Duke could not score. And there's a lot to talk about with these two games, a lot of implications for Toronto Raptor draft targets, specifically Khaman Maluch, who had the game from hell for that Duke game. He finished with 0 rebounds in a game where he played over 20 minutes. Certainly, there's a lot of what have you done for me lately? There's a lot of general managers and executives out there who believe that these are the types of games that really expose who a player is. And perhaps we should probably start with Florida Auburn because no player that I can think of in this tournament has done more for their stock and more for their draft stock than Walter Clayton Jr., and he was brilliant. So this game really came down to a game of halves, right? If you want to be honest, in the first half, it was crazy. Auburn was up 8. They go into the halftime, and you thinking Florida has a run in them. I kept thinking that Florida is a great team. They are a very well coached team. They just didn't have that sort of physicality. I noticed it in the Elite Eight with Alex Condon, just not super impressive. Defensively, he's everywhere, but offensively, really just lacking that toughness. And in the first half, Janai Broom, elbow injury be damned, like he took him to work, and he was unstoppable. And you're thinking, and it wasn't just the offense. I know a lot of people are going to hone in on the offense. A lot of people have concerns about Janai Broom at the NBA level. And because this is more of an NBA podcast, we'll talk about how some of this stuff translates to the NBA level. Yeah, he's a post big. Yeah, he doesn't shoot super well. Yeah, he's not the greatest free throw shooter, as we just saw, 3 for 7. There's some concerns. There's some concerns about speed, foot speed, whatever. He's a little bit slow. But man, this guy's hands are like, you should study them. Okay. The way he chopped down the basketball in the first half, it had Florida's it had their entire offense disrupted. The way he is able to shut down the paint at times as a defender, and it's not because of elite burst or at least elite length. He has decent size, but it's just straight up intelligence and will. And yeah, I thought Janai Broom had a brilliant first half, and I didn't know how Chinaloo and Condon were going to deal with it, and it was weird that Florida just insisted on not doubling him because he was killing them, and they stick with that. They go into the halftime huddle, and yeah, sure, Walter Clayton was getting his shots, but he was getting a lot of shots from two. He was getting a lot of shots at the rim. And you think about it and you're like, okay, this game plan does favor Auburn to win. They're a very physical team. They were playing like the more physical team. They were winning loose balls. They just had a lot more toughness, and Florida felt very scattered. And I got to tell you, in the second half, it just came down to who wants it more. I hate to say that because it sounds like such a cop out, and it sounds like you don't really want to discuss the technicalities and everything that Florida did right. Florida did a lot of things right, but sometimes it just comes down to a loose ball and who wants it more. Sometimes it just comes down to an offensive rebound and who wants it more. And honestly, sometimes it just comes down to late game execution and keeping your mind clear. And it felt like in the second half, Auburn just went away from their game plan, which was feeding Janai Broom the ball. Now, we'll never know entirely what went into that decision. Was it simply, you know, was it Mazzara and, what was it? Was it just their guards deciding, now we're going to be the heroes? I don't think so. I don't necessarily think that's what happened. But I do feel like at times you needed to get him the ball sooner, and I didn't think he was catching it in the right places. And Florida insisted on just playing very physical with him when he was trying to get to his spots. So while they didn't insistently double him, because that would really open up those corner threes and open up the shooters for Auburn and get them going, and now everybody's going, and now you have no chance in this game. I think they did a lot of good work on him to sort of beat him up a little bit. And he's a very physical dude. And I just think that elbow just gave up on him, man. I'm going to be honest. Like, he did not look right in that second half. Janai Broom scored his last points in this game with 15 minutes to go in the second half. And Florida just went on a run. And it wasn't just Walter Clayton Jr., but man, it is hard not to talk about Walter Clayton Jr. in a game like this because he becomes the first freshman to put up back-to-back 30-point games in the NCAA tournament since, does anyone know? Does anyone know the answer? Write it in the chat. Larry Legend, Larry Bird. That was 1978 or 1979. So it has been, it's been almost 50 years, okay, since a freshman, since anyone has done this. And it is damn impressive. He is incredible, man. Like, I got to tell you, I was talking to a scout yesterday, and I talked to a couple of trainers yesterday, and I said, "What are your thoughts on Walter Clayton Jr. as an NBA player?" Because I am blown away. I think his icy demeanor, his composure, his ability to come up late, and just his patience as a basketball player, like his ball handling, his ball skills. These are skills that I believe will translate to the next level, whether you think the athleticism will or will not. And I got to tell you, nobody really agrees. Everyone thinks he's going to be a marginal role player or a deep bench guy at the next level. And that may end up being the case. That may end up being the case. But I think shooting is a great equalizer in the NBA. And this is not 1992. And his shot will make him an NBA player. I'm positive of it. What the other stuff in his game, that icy demeanor, the decision making, the ability to sort of shift and stay on balance, the coordination, that stuff, I think it can make him more than just an NBA player. I think it can make him a 10, 12-year NBA player. I think it can make him a player of note in the NBA. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him be a starter in the NBA. And I know a lot of people discount age, and people are going to discount age, but you cannot discount coming up in these moments because I tell you, any person who's played basketball, there are certain players for whom the lights just get too bright. Thomas Hoff was probably a player for whom the lights got too bright. A really good free throw shooter goes to the line and just cannot make a fucking free throw over and over again. Ruben Chinulu was very impressive defensively. I was just thinking to myself, NBA Africa Academy, 7'8" wingspan. Yeah, the Raptors are probably going to be interested in this guy at some point. Probably. He's going to end up on the G League or something. Like, it's going to happen. 7'8" wingspan? Yeah, that's probably going to happen. But yes, this game really went to the more composed team down the stretch. And, there's that old thing where someone asked Russell Westbrook, did they win this game or did you lose this game? I really wish someone had asked Auburn that, because it really does feel like Auburn threw this game in the second half. They completely went away from their action. They went away from what was working. They went, just into a shot that just didn't make a lot of sense for me. And I felt like the couple of times they did go to Janai Broom down, like, I think it was like they were down. Let me see here. Hang on one second. If you check the game cast here, it was around here, 63, 6 minutes to go, 63, 64. You're in this game. And right here, you get down 2 possessions, 69, 65, and you're feeling that tension of shit. It's 4 minutes to go. We got to make a play. We got to make a jump. And you just need a big play at some point. And Auburn just went cold. And, they went to Janai Broom and it was nothing. Like, they just couldn't get it. And I felt like that was very defeating for them, because that is your guy. That's your guy. That's the guy that you're expecting to carry you. That's the guy who's carried you all season. I was asked on the panel who's the best player in college basketball. I said it was between Janai Broom and Cooper Flagg, and I meant it. I really think he's one of the better collegiate players as a sum total of his 5-year career through college basketball. This is the last year, that 5-year eligibility due to the COVID season. Like, he's one of the better college players I've seen in my lifetime. Janai Broom is awesome too. I do have some concerns about him at the NBA level though. And I do think he's going to fall into the second round, maybe deep second round pick. Maybe someone's going to take a chance on him in the 40s, 50s, or something like that. And, if it works, it works. It's a different era thing, right? He reminds me a lot of, guys like a lot of players that I really liked in the 90s. Reminds me a little bit of Brian Grant. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, Florida gets through. The game that more people perhaps watched, the game that everybody wanted to see, was Houston versus Duke. Will this Duke team, this incredibly talented Duke team that has been running roughshod over the entire world for the last 4 months, are they finally going to be tested in a close game? Now, sometimes it doesn't come down to who is more talented. Now, it's interesting to note that Darko Rajakovic actually picked the Houston Cougars to win this game before the game. So that's pretty cool. Kind of gives you an insight that Darko really knows hoop. I had Duke winning this game up until about 3 hours before the game. And I had a conversation with somebody, and it wasn't about Duke, and it wasn't about the specific game. We were talking about a particular tournament, a basketball tournament that I think we had played in 2004, and we talked about experience and how much that experience taught us. And the more we talked about experience, the more I thought to myself, continuity really matters. Playing hard really matters. Positional switching and versatility really matters. And the way the Houston defense works on a string, nothing, I was not sure about very much going into that game. I didn't know if Cooper would be a, able to rise to the moment. I didn't know if Con Knippel was going to have 25 points or if he was going to have 2 points. I didn't know if Sharp was going to be able to shoot the way that he did. I didn't know anything. The only thing I knew, Duke is not blowing out Houston. That's the one thing I could have written it. I could have written it in stone and put it on my grave. That if Duke was going to win, they're going to have to win ugly. That Houston was not going to just let them rack up 97 points. That Houston Cougars team moves on a string. It's actually beautiful to watch. It's interesting because I've actually seen the Raptors play a little bit of Houston Cougars defense this year. Big shout outs to Jamal Shed, who's very, very happy right now. And you see it. And when you see it, you're just like, oh, that feels tough. They beat the shit out of you, man. They beat the shit out of you all game. They beat you to loose balls. They rotate. You think you have an opening and it closes up before you even see it. It is nuts how hard this team plays. Talent for talent, paper for paper, these two teams have no business being in a game. They really don't. They really don't. But culturally, what Kelvin Sampson has done with the Houston Cougars program, and you're seeing it with Jamal Shed, really. If you're a Raptor fan who didn't follow the Houston Cougars this year, this team was led by Jamal Shed last year. He was clearly and by far and by leaps and bounds their best player last year. And he got hurt in the tournament and they ended up losing to this Duke team. And, Jamal had nothing that he could do about it. And it's probably a big reason why his draft stock fell. Because if Jamal Shed is able to play that game against Duke last year, I'm positive the Houston Cougars win last year. And now maybe we're talking about national champion Jamal Shed. And maybe we're not talking about him as a Raptor because he doesn't fall to 45. These games matter because people really hone in on these moments. And unfortunately, Houston just couldn't make it through last year. They make it through this year. 4 of the starters that were with Jamal Shed last year, they play again this year. There's a lot of continuity. Among the teams in the bracket of 64, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they had the most continuity from last year to this year. They also play perhaps the toughest of any team in the country. They are not a team that you're going to blow out. So Duke knew it going in that we were going to have to win ugly. We're going to have to win on their terms. And at some point, it really did feel because Duke took, I think, Houston led maybe 6-5. And then Duke did not trail again for the rest of the game until they lost the game. And it was Cooper, it was Cooper flag. It was a lot of Cooper flag early, right? He was dancing with the basketball. He hit a bunch of threes. He got to the line. He was great. I thought Con Knippel was very composed with the basketball, still playing off of 2 feet, didn't let the size and the physicality bother him. But as this game went on, right, it was Duke's backcourt, which is interesting because, their front court is made up entirely of very young freshmen. Khaman and Cooper are young for their class, so they're basically high schoolers. You have a very young team here. And something about experience showing up in those close games that doesn't show up in those blowouts was always in the back of my mind as I was watching this game. And of course, it's the second half, Duke's up 14, and you're just like, where's that final blow? Where's that final blow? Where's that? We're not messing around with our food. This is a tough team. We got to continue to respect our opponent. And that big play, that big, that big knockout punch, I got to tell you, it just never came. It never came. and they continued to keep the Houston Cougars connected. I know it's insane in a low-scoring game to say that 14 points is connected, and it took a miracle mind melt on the Duke Blue Devils, which included several plays where they could even get an inbounds play in. Like, it took a lot of completely, you know what, mistakes were made on both sides. Let's just be real about that, okay? There was a violation that I don't think I've seen in years, where a defender literally poked the ball out of the inbounder's hands and then receives a technical foul that Con Knipple calmly hit. So it's not like Houston didn't make mistakes down the stretch. It's just that Duke made way more mistakes down the stretch. They weren't assertive. Break it down to that final shot. Cooper Flag gets the ball on the left side of the floor. I don't like that. I immediately hate that. Why are you on the left side of the floor? They can load up. Why are you there? Your angles are completely disrupted. You're the star player. Be in the middle of the floor. You don't want to start your offense from the sideline. Like, that's dumb. You don't want to do that. It's not just that. Going for the fadeaway. Why? You're bigger, stronger, you're more athletic, you're fully capable of getting to the rim. You're also the national player of the year. You're probably going to get the foul. And that at which point you're going to leave it to the refs to blow a whistle. I mean, there's not a single player on Houston that is taller than Cooper Flag. I just want to be clear about that. Cooper is 6'9". Khaman is 7'2". The Houston Cougars' tallest player is probably 6'7". They've listed him at 6'8", but let's just be real. He's 6'7". Con Knipple is taller than Con Knipple is almost as tall as Houston's center. I'm not saying height and size have everything to do with it when grit plays such a huge part into basketball, but man, attack the rim. They don't, it's like they have shot blockers for sure. They do have shot blockers. Tugler had like 4 blocks. Okay. They do have shot blockers, but you're big enough, strong enough to attack the rim. Instead, you do the turnaround, you dance with the basketball, you do the turnaround, you do the fadeaway. Now, here's another thing that I think I noticed. You're not used to playing this hard. If you're the Duke Blue Devils, let's just be clear about something. We'll talk about the box score very momentarily, but I just want to talk about this. You're not used to playing this hard. You haven't played a full 40-minute game all season. You've played 30-minute games. You played hard for 32 minutes, but you haven't played hard for 40 minutes. And as evidenced by your inability to inbound the basketball, you haven't worked on your special plays very much either. That's tough, because to lose on a technicality like that, to lose on something like not being able to meet the ball with force on an inbound is nuts. That's nuts, right? Like, I just don't get it. It felt like in both games, there was a cataclysmic implosion from one side and a forceful hammer thrown down from the other side. It does take two to tango. If I open the door and you don't walk through it, nothing happens. But, and I just want them to be like sitting there like, shit. Do a paid member sub and make some bank. I've thought about it. I don't want to price out anybody. Our economy is in the shitter right now in Canada, US, whatever. So I don't want to be pricing out people at a time like this. I understand, it would probably make a lot of money. I know a lot of you would subscribe to a members only chat and stuff, and it might be a lot more enjoyable without all the trolls and all the stupid shit, but it's okay. A super chat only chat? Yeah, that would be really pricing people out. Anyways, yeah. So anyways, back to this. I don't think that you should hold this game entirely against Khaman, but I suspect a lot of people will. And it's partially because of the optics of having your worst game of the season in the biggest game. It's also not just the numbers. It's not just the 6 points and it's not just the 0 rebounds. It is really just how he played. He wasn't forceful with the basketball. He wasn't physically imposing. He was good defensively for the most part, but I don't think he was great defensively. And so that's just sort of where it comes down to. So, look, the Raptors are 1 game away. A loss for the Raptors or a win for the Spurs locks them into number 7, at which point I think you're in a good place to get him if you want him. Okay. And I've heard from a lot of Raptor fans over the last, 10, 12 hours that, hey, if this is who he is, we don't want him. To which I would say, have a little empathy, have a little bit of decorum, have a little bit of common sense about what he was going through during that day. He's not the first, African prospect to go through something like this, but and I suspect with the orange man in charge, he won't be the last. But that's a tough thing, to have your visa application. And you know what? If you wanna make a case for why his agency would want to push him towards a Canadian team, this might be a really good reason. I've been very impressed with Khaman literally all year. There was a possession, 2 possessions, during this game where he switched out to a wing and looked very comfortable. I don't think he played with the same amount of force that he usually plays with. Like, you can see Khaman attacking the basketball on both ends, hunting those shots, hunting around the rim, getting offensive rebounds. This just wasn't that game for him. And, with your standing reach, you got to think about this. He's 7'2". He has a higher standing reach than Victor Wembanyama, a fact that I have now stated 4 times because it's just, it's worth stating. And he's a really, really, if he wants to be, like, he hasn't developed yet physically. He's still skin and bones, right? He could probably work his way up to about 265, 270 very comfortably without losing too much mobility, at which point he becomes a more agile, potentially much more skilled Donovan Clingan, which is absolutely worth the 7th pick in this draft. Like, what are we talking about? Competent center play at the backup position is something the Raptors don't have. And just a defensive anchor at the rim is something the Raptors don't have. And a stretch big is something that the Raptors don't really have. And I think he has the potential to be all three. I think he has the potential to be much better than Miles Turner. I don't know about Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid is a freakish outcome. And I don't know anyone that I would say, oh, that can be the next Joel Embiid. I don't even think Cooper Flag can be as good as Joel Embiid. But one of these players might be as good as Joel Embiid, if not much better. So who's to say? Con Knipple, as I said, impressed me very much. To Duke's backcourt, you really shit the bed there, right? The missed free throw on the 1+1 was really tough from Tyrese Proctor, who someone pointed out in the chat, his free throw percentage has gone down for all 3 years, and his 3-point percentage has gone up for all 3 years. That is very weird, right? When you think about it, shooting is shooting. Free throw shooting is usually considered like the greatest indicator of 3-point shooting. But it is interesting to see something like, I don't know, RJ Barrett shooting 63, 64% from the free throw line, but shoots 35% from 3. And then Scottie Barnes shooting like 26% from 3, but he's shooting like north of like 76% from the line. So it's just like, it's kind of weird. I guess it depends on what you work on. But yes. Anyway. How good is Joel Embiid when he's missed as many games as he played? That's fair, but it doesn't take away the talent. Like, no one is guaranteeing the future health of Khaman Maluch. Like, nobody can do that. Like, nobody is saying like, hey, this is a guy who's going to play 70 games a year for his entire career. I don't think anyone could really say that at this point. But I do think that Khaman is a player who can be a very, very serviceable starter at the next level. And, he's really built for the modern NBA. He's a really good shooting touch out to about 22, 23 feet. So, there's some potential there. There's some potential there. And his size, that is going to be an unguardable shot for the rest of his career. So the most important ability is availability. Someone smarter than me. Yeah, I said that, and I'm sure I'm biting that from somebody else who said that. No, I agree. I agree. It is the most important ability. But when he has been healthy, he's been amazing. And also, let's not take away the fact that he's won an MVP. If Khaman Maluch wins an MVP, it will literally be that he hit his 100th percentile outcome. So it's nuts. I like Edgecombe. I do too. I do too. Okay. Let's go to Twitter, and then we'll talk about Brandon Ingram, the potential return, and how good that could be. So very briefly, I take you back to the post. And where are we at? Okay. So here we go. So this is a post that I wrote on X, and it's sort of meant as a reminder to myself to just breathe. But I also just want to read this out to our community members, and our subscribers have been popping off like lately. Our channel subscribers here, as well as our followers on X. And I do believe, unfortunately, drama does bring attention to you, but I do want to use that attention in a positive way. I want to, again, people want to say stuff about you, show them who you really are. So I said in this post that I've accepted that that I have a tone issue. I can sound snarky, condescending, conceited, arrogant, annoying, long-winded, and I'm not very charismatic or funny. If I do lose my cool, it isn't in a humorous way, nor is it an entertaining or enjoyable. It just sounds like nails on a chalkboard. So none of this is flattering, and none of this advances my goals as a content creator at all. Where entertainment is paramount. So for all of these flaws, I do have some good qualities as well. I don't mince words. I'm not political or scripted. I don't lie. I'm not two-faced. I'm well researched, intellectually curious, and original. And there's a trade-off with all people, and we can all do to work. All we can do is work to better ourselves each day. A lot of stuff has been said this past week. 3 to 4 years ago, I might bother to sift through each lie, each misquote, and just expose the receipts. Maybe make a video explaining why so much of what has been said is unequivocally false. But this is not a video that I will make this year. It's not just that I can't be bothered to spend the time, it's part of it. But it's not just that I don't feel it'll change anyone's opinion, because it probably would. It's just that I now believe in that rise over run approach to conflict. I will spend no more time squashing beef, discussing or arguing beef. I'm going to trust the work. I believe that good work, honest content, and self improvement are rewarded over time. Setbacks be damned. I trust that over some period of time, you will find out who people actually are, for better or for worse. And I'm ready to be the best basketball content creator and analyst that I can be, cover a great team that plays the kind of basketball that I love and respect, and an organization that has built itself around a coach and players that I admire deeply. PC beef is over. I will not spend time fighting or pushing back against my false allegations or arguing why I didn't say what you think I said or why the clip you saw was badly edited. This will sort itself out over time. I know this. I care entirely too much about what we're doing on this channel to get derailed by bullshit ever again. Okay, so that's my stance on this. I'm gonna keep it there, regardless of who makes videos. Gifted makes a video, Low can make a video. I don't really care. It's cool. I've kept very bad energy towards both those guys. If they feel like they need to respond to something, if Ox needs to have another live or whatever, you can do it. It's cool. I won't be part of it. I'm not going to be part of it. And after having a discussion with PC about this, I realized that, I regardless of what the chat wants at PC, it's very clear that the leadership does not want this. I am there for at least one reason beyond my basketball takes and the fact that they think that I am a worthwhile analyst. And that is because they want to depart from the toxicity and drama and bullshit that has been unfortunately prevalent at PC for so long. So we're trying to take the next chapter, take the next step as an organization. And I want to be a part of that. I do want to be a part of that. And, unfortunately, if I'm going to be 100 with you guys, the panel is the biggest show on Player's Choice. Player's Choice is a huge platform with 133,000 subscribers. It has a lot of dedicated following. A lot of people know about it. A lot of people are connected to it. And a lot of brands are interested in it. And so the image element of this is very important. And having people crashing out on playback streams and having people screaming at each other and calling each other bitch on a live stream is not advertiser friendly, nor is it it's not the type of content that they want to create. It's definitely not the type of content that they want to be known for. And while the chat may get off on people, getting riled up at each other, we just want to keep it to basketball. So if I'm saying if, because I have no idea, maybe there's a huge push behind the scenes to get me off. I've pissed off a lot of people. Obviously, I've aggravated a lot of people along the way. That includes Ox, that includes Low, that includes Gifted. There's a lot, and you tend to, I don't want to say get worried. You should be mindful when the room of people that want to see your downfall becomes very large, right? Because there is a force. And as I said, the panel is the largest show on PC. There are a lot of people who would like to be on the panel, people that are currently on other shows on PC. There are people who are not on PC at all that maybe used to be on PC that are like, hey, like I could use that. Like that was my job. Now he's taken my job. I don't like this guy. So, it's kill or be killed, I guess. on these internet streets out here, but it's not that serious. And I'm choosing to be I'm choosing to take this in stride. I've reflected on my behavior. I can totally understand how my tone has set off a lot of people. I don't believe that I've ever intended to be mean spirited or nefarious, but I can certainly understand how it's come off that way. So I'm just going to move past it. And, if you tune into PC on a show that I'm on, you will not see the extra dramatics from me. I will not be dragging personal shit into it. If somebody makes a video about me today, it will not be the subject of my next panel episode. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to say, let's move on. Let's talk about basketball. I just want to stick to hoops because I did not come onto this content game to be fucking TMZ. If I wanted to do that, I would have started TMZ. Okay. So this is about basketball, and we got to talk about one of the best basketball players in the world, possibly making his debut for the Toronto Raptors later this week, and that's Brandon Ingram. So the Raptors have been very coy, in my opinion, and pretty dishonest, in my opinion, about how Brandon Ingram's injury has been progressing. Now, from what I know about this situation going back to 2 months ago, he's perfectly fine. Like, he is capable of, ramping up at any time that they want. But they wanted to take this time to probably establish better off-ball patterns, to tank, obviously, to allow him to heal fully, to maybe work on his body a little bit, maybe do some strength stuff. I have no idea. I haven't really been plugged into that side of it at all. That's just me guessing. But from what I understood, him in New Orleans 3 weeks before he got traded, he was on the court playing basketball against the coaches in New Orleans. So that's not contact necessarily, but you cannot imagine that an ankle sprain that 3.5 months ago you were on the court playing against coaches has turned into an ankle sprain where 3.5 months later you still haven't been cleared for contact. Again, this is partially why they signed the extension when they did. They wanted to put him at ease, that he didn't need to go out and hunt for a contract or anything like that. He didn't need to prove himself, but also because they wanted that draft pick, and they knew the second he played, the second he was available to play, that people would get upset, that people would say, well, why don't you play him? Because you can make the play-in. And if you want any evidence that there is somebody who might think that, I want to show you possibly the worst basketball fan on earth. Okay. Now, this is a Raptor fan, allegedly. I'm going to say allegedly. And this is what this guy had to say. I can't believe I'm giving this a platform, but I just...
You're a superficial player. You're not a superstar. 5 points? 5 points? You ain't shit. Will you ever see an A1 on a championship winning team putting up 5 points in a game? Every single game, there are people that paid to be in this arena. It makes me ashamed to be a fan of this team when there's players that don't give a damn. You can't put up this type of effort because, we're not making the playoffs. If these guys gave a damn after the All-Star break, we could have made the play-in tournament. Now, we're on a direct road to be the face of mediocrity in this league. We don't have a superstar in this team. We don't have a bona fide All-Star in this team. We don't have somebody that you consistently count on to give it day in, day out, no matter what the stakes are. Scottie Barnes, you're a superficial player.
Okay. So, first of all, this guy's funny as hell. I do think that he's like possibly insane, but I understand, like, you need to chill. This is probably very controversial, but I said this is the reason that some people are bullied in high school, so that you don't go out into the world and become this. Okay, we are social beings. I understand we haven't talked about this very much on the channel, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but really, like, the bullying and that stuff, it does happen for a reason. You're odd. Now, you could be good odd. You could just be like really, really smart kid, and they're just going to bully you anyway, because again, the society works when most people deviate very little. Deviant scare society. So people on either end of that extreme, like people who are, I don't know, into weird shit, and you feel like they're about to shoot up the school, like, yeah, those people probably get bullied a lot. The people who are antisocial and, just stare down a lot and have no confidence, they probably get bullied a lot. And again, I think bullying is typically done to anyone who is outside that norm. Unfortunately, most of us probably grew up not wanting to be bullied and just tried to conform to whatever was normal. We looked around, we observed everyone's behavior, we saw what everyone was wearing, we saw how people were talking, we just acted like that. Unfortunately, now we are so segmented as a society that there are entire pockets of people like this guy that build consensus so they don't even feel like they're freakishly weird in their thinking or deficient in their thinking because there's thousands of people on their group chat that think exactly the way they do. That's the thing. That's what social media has done. Social media has segmented us away from each other. It's further cemented us into groupthink, and it has probably made sports fandom more toxic than it has ever been, like in human history. There was a time where we could just get on and talk about a great game that a player had without making all the derogatory comments about like what they didn't do or what someone else did or getting all negative or you know, like it's almost like I could talk about a Nikola Jokic could have 60 points or 61 points, the most points in a triple double, and all we're talking about is, but Russell Westbrook is an idiot. Jokic doesn't play any defense. They lost because of this. Their front office is cooked, and it's just like, my God, can you imagine, like watching Kobe Bryant's 81? Like even as a Raptor fan, because that was kind of an embarrassing moment for the Raptors, giving up 81 points to a player we were all just in awe of what he did. Nobody called him selfish. Nobody was being like, "Oh, Kobe didn't play defense in this game." Nobody was like, "Michael didn't score 81." I don't remember that conversation. I think we were all just generally in awe and nobody really nobody really fretted. I mean, sure there were some Kobe haters out there who were just like he deserves to be in jail right now. But apart from that, it wasn't really that toxic. It was just celebrated widely as a huge basketball accomplishment. And I think we've just kind of gotten away from that, where there's just a segment of society that just wants to be super negative about everything. And unfortunately, the Raptors are in the boat where they have a lot of negative fans because, unfortunately, I believe, and this is my strongest belief, that the media sets the tone for discourse. The media has always set the tone for discourse. Back in the day when you had newspapers and everyone got their information from the newspapers, the media was still setting the tone for discourse. Those were qualified journalists. Granted, they may have had slants and biases, but they were still committed to the truth. That they were still held to a certain standard that they couldn't just fabricate bullshit and put it in a newspaper. They did, but they weren't legally allowed to. At least in theory, that was a much better situation. Now you get on X, you say XYZ player is a bum. You really don't have to provide any detail or context. You don't have to ever meet that player. There's no consequences. The social media thing reminds me of shark finning in the ocean. You know, my friend who passed away, Rob Stewart, had this entire thing about how the oceans were just this open terrain for every opportunistic piece of shit on earth to just go and basically pillage the ocean. And there's really no consequences for it because people aren't policing it. There's no rules. There were no rules like 10, 12 years ago. If you finned a shark, you didn't go to jail for that. No one was keeping track on you. And so people did it. People did it in mass to the point where shark populations declined by like almost 90%. That's the tragedy. But my point here was that this is what is supposed to happen. So when you listen to the JD Bunkus podcast, you end up like this guy. When you listen to Sid Sixero, you end up like this guy. When you listen to Josh Lewinberg and William Loon, people like this, you do end up like thinking, well, Scottie's gunning for a supermax and he's not a supermax player and blah, 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 blah. And like, what's he doing? And he's screwing up the tank, but he's also scoring 5 points. And it's so negative. Here's the thing. I can't remember the last time I was this positive as a Raptor fan. There's nobody I dislike on this team. There's almost no bearish sentiment at all going into next season. I'm excited. I'm so excited. And I noticed that this entirely bearish trend in the Raptor space does not exist in our space because I ran a poll on our IG and I said, what are your thoughts on next year? And the options were, I don't know yet, another losing season. It depends on what we do, and it's going to be absolute cinema. Almost 90% of people picked it's going to be absolute cinema, which was like, I think 64% of people picked it's going to be absolute cinema. And then I think like 20-ish, 24, 26% of people said it depends on what we do. I don't think a single person picked another losing season. Maybe it was like one person. So it tells me that we as a community are stupidly optimistic. Like maybe too optimistic. Maybe we need to get a little bearish. But I'm happy, man. I'm happy with this team. I can't wait for summer league. I can't wait for the draft. And if you're a little bit worried about the draft, I got some fun little fact for you, okay? Because we watch these shows. Sometimes we watch them for entertainment. Sometimes we watch it as pastime. But sometimes we watch it for some facts that we can bring up in our next basketball debate. So here's a new fact, a fact that you won't get anywhere else because I am very original and I did not poach this from anybody. It's just original thoughts that I have about basketball. And this is one of the original thoughts that I had about basketball. Danny Ainge is widely considered one of the best general managers in the league. Correct? Correct. Okay. Built the Celtics championship, left, they won a championship. Now he's doing something similar in Utah, building it up, tanking, doing some shit. But people always call him like one of the best general managers. People also call Masai one of the best general managers. So I wanted to put head to head the draft record over the last 2 years of these two very, very good executives. And I want to show you what it is. So I would ask you in the chat, whose last 6 rookies would you have? Would you rather have the Utah Jazz, who picked Cody Williams at 10, Isaiah Collier at 29, Kyle Filipowski at 31. The year before, they picked Taylor Hendricks at 9, Keontae George at 16, and Bryce Sensabaugh at 28? Or would you rather have Grady Dick at 13, Jacoby at 19, Jonathan Mobo at 31, Jamal Shad at 45, Ulrich Shamshe at 57, and Jamison Battle undrafted? Which of these two would you rather have? And then I'll give you the hammer. Suave saying Masai easily. Bryce is a hell of a, bucket getter. And, the jury is still out on Isaiah Collier. I'm not a huge Kyle Filipowski guy. I understand the offensive upside, but his defense is atrocious, especially at the rim. I can see him being a valuable, like, third string power forward for us, Pepper Jackson, Masai, Slytherin saying. Okay, so here's the hammer. Okay. The average pick. Okay. What the hell? So the average pick for the Raptors was 36.6. So that's the average placement of the pick. 36.6. The average placement, which is to say the average slot that the Utah Jazz selected, was 20.5. Okay. So here's the thing. If we're just going to go on averages, the average 20th pick is usually like a rotation player. The average 36th pick usually doesn't make it to 4 years. I can't think of a single player in this group for the Raptors that's not going to make the 4-year mark. So the Raptors are cooking with gas. So here's the crazy part. Let's do a little bit of fast math on the fly. The Raptors will most likely pick 8th. And I say most likely for a reason. Their most likely single outcome is 8th. And probably for the second round, they'll pick 41st. So that their average pick this year will be 24.5. A full 12 higher than their average pick over the last 2 years. And this draft is better than at least last year's draft. So it makes me think that there is an actual chance that you will get the best player in this group that you have for the Raptors. The best player will probably come from this draft right now. It makes me think that that's a possibility. And in fact, it makes me think it's a probability that the best player from this group will be the 8th pick in this year's draft. That's crazy. Now, funny enough, we didn't draft Ochai, but Ochai was the 14th pick 3 years ago. So technically he's there too. We have a lot of second draft guys. I'm sure we'll get more this offseason. I don't know, man. I got to tell you, as someone who just watched Houston kick ass, I'm really, really excited about what the Raptors are doing. The Brandon Ingram thing, I kind of got sidetracked off of it, but I do want to say that if the Raptors do manage to lose today in an hour when they play against the Brooklyn Nets, they are slightly favorites to go into this game and win. But I think the Raptors have a much stronger incentive to lose, if you don't mind my saying. I do think that that's true. So, like, if you look at the reverse standings here, like, what is what is what is Brooklyn's incentive to try to lose? Philly is never losing again. Toronto is not catching Brooklyn. Brooklyn has a really tough schedule. Mel saying, is Grady playing? No, Grady is done for the season. So, Key M saying Barnes is out today. I told you, man. Like, I'm telling you, this guy's like selectively going to. I think he's going to deliberately miss that 65 game mark just so people can shut the fuck up. And it's not even that. I don't even think it's because he cares so much. He's played. Let's see. He has played 62 games this season, right? So here's the thing that I want you to do. I never want to encourage trolling, but because he said it so many times, I just want y'all to do this for me. If Scottie Barnes misses one more game this year, he will miss the quote unquote eligibility that he's been hunting for all season. At which point, I want you at some point on social or something to go and tell William Liu what happened to the 65 game mark for Scottie. Because and I want you to do the same thing for Josh Lewenberg. I'm not trying to be toxic. I'm not trying to send trolls out. I'm not saying troll these guys. I just want you to ask them because I don't want to ask them. So you ask them. Ask them what happened to Scottie hunting for his max. If he misses one more game, because he's choosing to miss these games, they haven't shut him down. They haven't held a gun to his head. He's choosing to miss these games. He's allowing himself to miss these games. So that's what I want to know. If he misses one more game, that's what I want to know. Because this does not seem like the behavior of a person. And again, look, y'all know that every single time they do this thing where they try to interpret something about Scottie that isn't true, and I know factually that it's not true because I've confirmed that it's not true and it's logically not true, I do get upset. The last time it was Scottie doesn't work hard in the off season. I got really upset about that. Scottie had no right to, push back on Thaddeus Young. I got upset about that. Scottie has no right to argue with officials. I got upset about that. It's not because you're criticizing him for something that's fair. It's because you're interpreting something from your biased lens, which I don't agree with. So that's the thing. Right now, you have ascribed meaning to his playing that I have vehemently argued against and disagreed with. You have, whether you realize it or not, and I'm speaking directly to the media members who keep doing this, specifically people like Aaron Rose and, Josh Lewenberg, these people. No, I'm not trying to come at your necks or anything. Relax, relax. I'm just saying you guys have pushed this narrative very, very hard that Scottie is pushing for all NBA, and that's why he won't sit down. And the fans are very frustrated with this team, and they are redirecting that frustration towards Scottie Barnes because not only is he playing in these games and we're winning, but he's not playing that brilliantly himself. So it's like double frustration. It's like you played, we lost, but we won these bunch of other games. You're playing all this defense, but we don't really care about defense, and you scored 5 points. So that's really what's up, right? So I just want you to know that if Scottie misses one more game after tonight, right? After today, if he misses one more game, he will not make that 65 game cutoff. At which point, I really do want some answers from these people who said that this is all he wanted all along. That when I told you he was doing it to stabilize this offense, that he was doing this to be an organizer for his team and to get reps with Emmanuel quickly and because he felt it was useful. When I told you that, because I'm telling you, man, like I'm not trying to be all disorganized with my thoughts here. There's plenty of times when when the season was competitive, that if there's a block and he's in range, he's going for it. Right now, there's a block. He's barely going for it. It's a late contest every time. There's an open 3-point shooter. He was chasing out to the 3-point line earlier this season. He's not doing that right now. So I think he gets the message. I think he 100% gets the message. I don't think he's oblivious to the fact that we are losing and that we are going to miss the playoffs. But I think he wanted to be there for his teammates. So again, that's my point. Point being, the Brooklyn Nets can come out and win today's game. They don't have a very strong incentive to lose. And I do think that they should probably play Cam Johnson. If the Raptors are fully, willing to lose this game, they're not going to play Scottie. They're probably not going to play a lot of other players as well. They're probably going to pull the tank. They just want to lose this game. And I'll tell you why. They want to lose this game because that way they can actually play really, really hard winning basketball for the rest of the season, right? They can, because there would be no more consequences. When you talk about tanking, you have to look at one number. Never look at the wins, always look at the losses. We are at 50 losses, right? We're at 50 losses. Can we catch Brooklyn to 52 losses? Yes. But Brooklyn has no way or no intention of winning any more games after today. Their schedule is brutal. The max, they're winning one more game. If Toronto just, I don't know, here's what I would do. Masai Ujiri, Ring, Bobby Marks, or Sean Marks. Yo, Sean Marks. We want to lose today's game so we can go out and win the next 3 games. We give you a nice home win for your fan base. Beat us. This is what I would do if I was a general manager and I was like, one of those Don Corleone type of general managers, like I got an offer you can't refuse. Like, I would do that. So I would just tell them, we're planning to bring Scottie back the next game, planning to bring BI back the next game, planning to play all our starters down the stretch. We have this one outcome that we're trying to avoid, which is San Antonio catching us. And if we lose today's game, San Antonio can't catch us, and we will literally play. We'll blow out the next 3 teams, and we have a really easy schedule. It's going to be hard enough to lose these games as is. So you might as well go out and win them by 50 and give fans a lot of optimism, right? So that's what I would do. I would do everything humanly possible to lose today's game. I don't care what that means. You want some egregious examples of how you can lose today's game? Jakob Poeltl threes. Take 5 or 6 threes with Jakob Poeltl today. Or Cole Swider offensive initiation. Like, go to your weakest thing, right? Like, I've been watching the NBA for a long time. I don't know if y'all remember, I think it was like 2005, 2006, Mark Madsen. There was a game in double OT or single OT where the Minnesota Timberwolves badly needed to lose that game to keep their draft pick because it was lottery protected or something like that, or it was top 5 protected. I can't remember. And what did they end up doing? Mark Madsen took 6 or 7 threes in overtime. And Mark Madsen had probably not made a single 3 in his career up until that point. The Utah Jazz are doing that right now. Walker Kessler is taking threes. So right now, the Raptors are kind of doing something similar. They're having Orlando Robinson take threes. The difference is Orlando Robinson can actually make threes. So at this point in the season, the shitty part is if Ulrich was playing, this would be Ulrich takes 10 threes a game time, because obviously that would lead to losing, right? So you're just going to go to your most loss productive lineups and your most loss productive way of playing. And obviously, if you play super, super, super hard pressure defense, you're not only building great habits for your team going forward, and you're building great confidence and, all that stuff, but you're also in a sense tiring out your players so that they'll shoot worse jump shots. You're also making it much easier to attack the rim for any team that has any ability to beat your press. Teams don't press in the NBA the way the Raptors press right now because it's tiring, it's exhausting, it's not sustainable. Very few players can do it with discipline, and you usually get beat on the back end. If you play a good team and you play defense against them the way you played against, I don't know, Houston or Portland, you can sorry, not Houston, Detroit or Portland, you're gonna get killed. If you play like that against, I don't know, Boston, like, you would die. Like, they would beat you by 65 points. Like, you just can't play that way against that team. So anyways, I think Darko Rakovic is a very smart guy. He knows this. Like, and that's the thing. The genius of this entire Raptors tank has always been that they lost a ton of games that they easily could have won if they were trying to win games. I'm not talking recently, I'm talking even earlier in the season. And I've been calling it out all year. To those of you who've been here locked in with us the entire time, you've heard this message and it has not deviated. It's been consistent as hell that ultimately the Raptors are playing VR missions. They're making things harder on their players so that they'll be easier later. They're putting on the loaded backpack and the ankle weights, and they're making these players play through mud right now so that they'll build better habits and they'll be better conditioned. And playing hard is a skill, man. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like, people act like anyone can do it. Everyone cannot do it. Everyone does not do it. And because everyone does not do it, it's a special skill. Motor is a skill. Intensity is a skill. Being able to play that way without making so many mistakes and fouling out of every single quarter, that's a skill. You got to teach players how to play like this. Playing on a string defensively is a skill. There is like a competitiveness to this. And again, I recite this, several times a day to myself. You learn how. First you have to learn how to practice. Then you have to learn how to play, and then you have to learn how to win. So 1, 2, 3. And I feel like the practices are very intense for Toronto, right? The games are also very intense. They're only extended practices anyway, but they're very intense as well. So the Brandon Ingram equation, I would love to see him come back. And I think that he will come back. The reporting around him is that he is almost, I think, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like, hold on, let me pull it up here. Brandon Ingram. Yeah, why is there so much bullshit here? Where's the report? Was it Blake who had it or Josh? Give me one sec, guys. I don't want to misquote it. So okay. Oh, so it's just RJ Barrett today. Wow. Hold up. Sorry, guys. Honestly, I have no idea where I read it, but I know I read it. Is it Josh Lindbergh? Sorry, guys. Give me one sec here. Okay. I know I read it somewhere. The point is, I think that Brandon Ingram, there was a practice update that he is going to be soon cleared for 5-on-5 or contact, and yeah, there we go. There was a report a few days ago. Ingram was just starting contact drills. Bingo. So yeah, so that's really where we're at. And again, I reiterate, they haven't been super honest about this, and that's fine. I'm not calling out the organization for that. I completely agree with the decision, but I think the plan was always, when that mathematical lock was in, because these lottery balls are valuable, right? I think the Raptors did the calculus. I think they looked at the teams ahead. I think they made their educated guess, and they said, there's nothing we can do short of throwing the ball out of bounds on every single possession and taking 16 threes with the Acapurdo, which would necessarily get us fined and probably catch us a lot of flack and probably ruin our reputation with our fans and probably drag a lot of media scrutiny and all that stuff. There's nothing we can do short of that, or shutting down our entire team and then losing this entire, thing. This season, basically, we'd be losing like 30, 40 games of potential reps that we could have. So there's nothing that we can do short of that would help us beat out a team like Philly or the Nets in terms of the record. So again, what I would do is I would let the Nets know, this is our plan. Once we lose this game, we plan to go out and try to win every single game for the rest of the season. We don't really care about this. We just want to make sure that we're cemented at 7 and that San Antonio doesn't, have us on the final day of the season going into some sort of tank off, right? Because really, that would be the most important game of the season. If the Raptors win today, win their next game, and San Antonio continues to lose, I reiterate, we are on a collision course, I think on April 13th or April 15th, with San Antonio in the final game of the season, and they would be like the loser of that. Like if the Raptors managed to lose that game, they would lock up the 7th seed. But if they were to win that game, they would be a coin toss away from losing the 7th seed for the 8th So it's just really tough, man. You don't want to be in that position. You take care of business early, and that way, you can have this meeting with your team. You can have Brandon Ingram in that meeting, and you could say, "Hey, guys, I understand we've been tanking. I understand we've done some stuff that didn't sit well with everybody, but now we've got these 4 games left. Let's go out there as a full team and let's show what we can do. And BI, we would like you to be part of 3 of those games so that we can give the fans a little bit of a vision into what this could look like. Let's go and fucking blow out the Charlotte Hornets by 20, 30, 40, 50 points and give the Raptor fans like some sort of hope and optimism in terms of all this. Scottie, we're going to go get you 20, 25 points. Let's go out there and really let's just win these final 4 games for our fans." And I do believe that that message will resonate. And I do believe that this team will come out fresh. And I do think that if you get this loss out of the way today, hopefully today, and you don't have to do it on your home floor, so that way you can actually win your season, your last home game. I don't know, there's a lot of things, there's a lot to consider here, but from a tanking perspective, this is the approach I would take. And it'd be really good for Brandon Ingram and Scottie Barnes and RJ Barrett, just for us to see what this looks like, so that we have a clearer vision of it going in the summer. Because again, there's no replacement for NBA reps. There's no replacement for you can run all the scrimmages you want. You can bring in a practice team. You can bring in fucking, a second league European team to come and scrimmage against you and pay their expenses to do this. You can do a lot of stuff. But until you go out and do it against an NBA team, you're never going to know what the shit is going to look like. You do it against NBA coaching in an NBA arena with NBA fans, you're not going to know what the shit looks like. So I just want the Raptors to do that. And again, once you lose this one game, there's nothing else. You don't have to lose any more games the rest of the season. San Antonio can do everything they want. They will never catch you, because that 51st loss is what San Antonio cannot catch mathematically. I believe that's hold on. Toronto has 50 losses. Right. So once they get 51, San Antonio can literally not catch them. They have 5 games remaining. They have 45 losses. So the worst they can do is lose all 5 games and end up with 50 losses. So again, that's the reality. The Raptors cannot make the play-in because they got eliminated 2 games ago. If they lose today, which I hope they will not be able to fall back into they will not be my apologies. They will not be able to out tank you. So yeah, that'd be great. Okay. I don't remember. Brother, we aren't losing this game. Brooklyn is benching their main guys. Uh you would think so, but we'll see. Also at 3:00, it is UConn versus South Carolina on the women's side. It is the national championship game. I just want to give a big shout out to Paige Beckers and Sarah Strong and just, Coach Gino Ariyama and that entire UConn program. UConn is the best school for basketball in the world, in my opinion. Men's side, women's side, they are so great. We have a former UConn Husky on. Do we have any former UConn Huskies on our team? No, we don't. We have a couple Kansas Jayhawks and a couple Duke Blue Devils. We don't. Do we have a UConn guy? We used to have UConn guys, but nevertheless, UConn is great. They are, yeah. And Tariq St. Page is her. Yo, she better be today. She better be biggest game of her life. And she was National Player of the Year her freshman season, like Cooper Flagg. She was the National Player of the Year. She gets an injury. She comes back, a better player. Comes back again, a better player. Comes back again, a better player. And all I'm hearing is Caitlin Clark, Juju Watkins. I love Juju. Just Caitlin, maybe not as much, but I love Juju Watkins. Paige Becker's a better player, 100%. Paige has been a better player for a long time. So this would feel like vindication. This would feel like validation. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. She's my favorite player in college basketball, men or women's side. I love Paige Beckers. Loved her since like 2019. Think she's a fantastic player. She's also Scottie's friend. That helps, So yeah, let's go Minnesota basketball. We literally could have tanked harder by shutting down guys instead of playing guys less than 30 minutes and benching fourth quarter guys. So here's the thing. You weren't going to out tank Brooklyn. It was never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Okay. And I'll say one final thing. era taxes, comparing players from past iterations, past eras, different situations. Every situation is different. Okay. It's very easy to say Giannis would have scored 250 points in the 70s. It's very easy to say Michael Jordan would average 45 points today. The truth is that we really don't know, but we can guess. But one part of the equation of guessing is understanding that the will of the individual to improve does not change. The character of the individual does not change. The work ethic and the resourcefulness of the individual does not change. A person who was resourceful in 1965 and hardworking and diligent and athletic in 1965 would be just as resourceful today, except they would have more resources. They'd be just as hardworking today, except they would have better trainers, better nutrition, better diet plans. A killer like Michael Jordan, a guy who transcended his sport, frankly, transcended sports, period. The most popular athlete in the world for a reason before social media. For that guy, he worked as hard as he could to kill his competition. When the Detroit Pistons beat the shit out of him, he came back 20 pounds heavier. When teams took away his counter, he found a new counter. When teams dared him to shoot, he became a better shooter. Michael Jordan just worked until he was perfect. And he worked until he was perfect because he wanted to win. So the will of the winner does not change. I think we saw that yesterday with Houston. I really do. I think coming down from 14, you had a 10-point lead. You know, if you're Duke, you had a 10-point lead with like 3 minutes to go or 2 minutes to go, and you blew it. You blew it because you could make inbound plays. But it wasn't just that. It was Houston's will to beat you. They wanted it. They really wanted it. They felt like maybe on that inbound violation, maybe it felt like Houston finally cracked, but Duke just didn't deliver that final punch. And that's it. It comes down to toughness, man. It really does. It comes down to experience, toughness. It comes down to a desire to win. It comes down to a discipline. It comes down to a level of focus. You know, people lose focus in these moments. The lights do get very bright. You start thinking ahead. You start chopping up, and you fall over your own feet. You know, a player that I think of at least one time every month is Chris Webber. The play against, I think it was against Duke. Was it against Duke? I think it was against Duke. Fab Five versus Duke. Was it Michigan against Duke? I think about that play. He comes in, he gets the ball, he travels. He travels. This is a ball handling four who travels on the inbound. The refs don't call it. He's thinking, I just got away with a travel, and he drives towards the baseline to get trapped. At which point, he does get trapped, and he picks up the basketball. Instead of passing it away, he picks up the basketball. And then he does the one thing that you're never supposed to do, which is he forgets that they don't have timeouts, and he calls a timeout. He says it's because somebody on the bench yelled, call a timeout. But in the end, did they also tell you to travel and drive towards the baseline and pick up the ball and become a panicky, person who forgot about the shot clock and forgot about your teammates? The moment just got too large. And I'm going to tell you something. As someone who watched Chris Webber's entire career, the moment was always too large. That guy was mentally fragile in those moments. I'm not trying to call him out or anything. He's a fantastic player, one of my favorite players. Really talented player. That was on the coach. Why? Okay, so Oak Tree, help me understand. The coach didn't call timeout, though. It was Chris who called timeout. Are you saying the coach should have told Chris before? They did. Just to be clear, everyone was told we don't have any more timeouts. Everyone. I don't know, man. There's certain people that just don't deal well with pressure. It's a nerves thing. It's that. But what I will say is the air attacks thing of, well, Giannis would be the most athletic person, blah, 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 back then. Can you imagine how athletic Wilt would be today? I don't know. He was standing 35,000 feet above his competition, that many years ago. Would the same person with better nutrition, better dietitian, better plan be an even bigger outlier today? Would he be just as much of an outlier today? Would he be Shaquille O'Neal meets Giannis Antetokounmpo, who can't hit free throws? Like what was it? You know what I mean? People adapt to their surroundings, right? People act like because bigs couldn't shoot threes in the 1990s that they would be dead today. It's like, bro, the same person who, like, if Karl Malone or Charles Barkley, these all-time greats, right? If they had grown up in an era where they knew that they had to shoot threes, they would have worked on threes. Why are you acting like this is new? They were told, don't take threes, you're a big. So they didn't. Can't tax them for that. If Hakeem Olajuwon and Tim Duncan grew up in an era where three-pointers from bigs was the norm, I mean, there were very few threes being taken by bigs back then, man. Rasheed Wallace took threes. Arvydas Sabonis took threes. Sam Perkins took threes. There weren't a lot of bigs that were taking threes back then. You know, Lambeer took some, but like for the most part, like that was not normal. So, and it's the same thing with these people today, right? Like you got athletes today, they're dealing with the social media, the fame, the money, whatever. Would they even want to be hoopers without all the fame, the glory, the money 35, 45 years ago? Would they want to be hoopers 70 years ago? I don't think so. Maybe they wouldn't want to be. So maybe we can tax the money hungry stars or the fame obsessed stars who only did this for the, for the women and for the national limelight and for the, $40 million contracts. For those people, we could say you wouldn't even have had an incentive to become a hooper back then. I don't know, right? Tariq saying, who you got for MVP, Shea or Joker? Shea. Shea 100%. This is not me being disrespectful to Nikola Jokic. I do think Nikola Jokic has had a better season. I do think Nikola Jokic is the better player, but I think Shea deserves MVP because his team has more wins and because he has been close enough to Nikola Jokic to warrant that. Like it has been close. Like the gap between Jokic and the next best player has never been this close, right? And it does not help that the Denver Nuggets are currently spiraling. And it's not Jokic's fault. A lot of people are blaming Calvin Booth. A lot of people are blaming, Russell Westbrook. They're blaming Jamal Murray. They're blaming everybody. But the truth is, whether it's somebody else's fault or yours, the Thunder are just too good a team, right? They're too good a team. Shea is too consistent. He deserves it. He deserves it 100%. He is a very worthwhile MVP. I will personally be very happy to see a Canadian MVP. I am very on the record, and I mean this is no disrespect to Steve Nash. I think Shea is a much, much better player than Steve Nash. I don't say much because that's disrespectful, but I will say I think he's a better player than Steve Nash, and I think he's the greatest Canadian player that I've ever seen in my life. And it'd be very, very cool to see that rewarded on an international stage, especially given everything that's happened between the United States and Canada over the last, 3-4 months, booing national anthems, all that stuff. To see the best player in the world be Canadian would be a really big victory right now. Do you know what I mean? Like I would feel the same way if Vlade Divac had won MVP in like 1997. I would have been like, this is the most giant fuck you to the Clinton administration that your best player is literally from the country that you're bombing right now. Like I would have loved that. Obviously, Vlade was not in that conversation, so that didn't happen. And Jokic was not. Was Jokic even born then? Oh my God, Jokic was barely conceived at that point. So like that's nuts. But yes. Anyways, I digress. I am off. I have 10 minutes to get ready to watch the UConn game. I'm going to go downstairs. I do want to let I want to let you know I believe it was Pepper Jack. I apologize if I'm wrong, but somebody sent a $20 super chat last time and said, "Take care of your mental." I got to tell you, I didn't take care of my mental with your super chat, but I did do something that I felt was good for me, and I ordered really good pizza yesterday. So I had pizza with the Final Four game. So that's what I did. I'm a simple person. I do simple things. Simple things give me joy. And thank you for my pizza. But yeah, I'm glad they do the MVP award before the playoffs. Yeah, I kind of wish they would do it the way they used to do it, but that's a story for another day. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. This was a bit of a rambly live, and I'm inclined to say I'm probably going to move this to private, given all the technical difficulties, the audio thing, and maybe it's just not worth it. So I think, I think, yeah, I'm going to move this to private because I don't want to feed into the idea of the trolls, and then yeah. So, alrighty. Peace, guys. Enjoy your days. And thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate y'all very much. And thanks for putting up with that 15 minutes of bullshit. Rob, one day's chat sub from now on. Yeah, but then these people will just make all their troll accounts a day in advance. I'll get a huge mass of subscribers. Then I'll have to ban all the subscribers. It'll be the same thing. Where there's a will, there's a way, and there's a very, very strong will right now to get me off of PC and to get me derailed and to see me crash out or to see me spaz out. But you know what? This is making me tougher. It's making me stronger. And it's literally about as much force as I have faced in my life. Well, that's not true. It's as much force as I've faced in terms of an online backlash against me. So what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And if you get through this, then hopefully I'll be better at dealing with lesser trolls in the future, right? Anyways, at least get that sub count up. We're not interested in those subscribers at all. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. And someone said, what pizza? I don't want to give the free promo. I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to give the free promo. But yeah, it was good pizza. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace. Enjoy the game.